Welcome, guys. We've got a special edition today. I'm Adam Hart, and welcome to our power session here. We're part of the Clear Impact Coaching company, and today I have a special session for us, and I wanted to introduce you guys to three really powerful women, Pip, Elise, and Jessica, who are all part of the Unleash Your Energy group coaching program. So first off, guys, welcome.
Thanks. Thank you.
And it's really great to have you here. And I want to acknowledge each of you for for being so committed to your self-care and for living the best versions of yourselves possible. And so obviously that's a lot of what we're up to in the group aspect of what we do together, but also for sharing your energy today and being able to support other, especially parents who might be experiencing the experience of revved up nervous system in relation to how the back and forth with their kids. And so today's session is really meant to give some perspective from your experiences on using the tools that you've learned inside of the Unleash Your Energy program and outside. It doesn't have to be just based obviously of the program, but how has the program really supported you to really support a shift in the dynamics of your own household? And so we'll dive into that. I think right now, and just as a context for those who are here in the live feed listening and watching, and also for our YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you subscribe, and we appreciate the support. But we are right now in a state of kind of this parenting paradigm, and the parenting paradigm being a lot of folks that I think a lot of us interact with, whether it's our friends, our family, our community. There's a level of parenting that fatigue is kind of leading a lot of how we're showing up, and it's leading to a lot of conflict in relationships where we have a lot of our kids are revved up and they're running off of a fight or flight stress response, and then the parents are doing the same thing, and then there's this constant battle back and forth, and everyone's reacting to each other, and it's really hard to create space from that. And so I guess I'd love to ask you each, if we could, maybe one at a time, just share what was your experience in relation to your kids and how that has been for you in relation to stress and how you've managed stress, and maybe not so much how the program has helped that to this point, but more of what was it like before you joined the program? Who would like to begin by sharing that?
Yeah, well, I would love to begin. And I, first of all, want to thank you for inviting me here, Adam, today. It's really lovely to be here and sharing this with everyone. So before I started on the program, I have two teenage boys, and I was always exhausted. I was always coming to them from a place of reaction instead of what I feel and what I want to be coming from. I was always nervous and anxious about how I was going to answer them, whether I was doing it right or whether I was doing it wrong. I was always heightened. I definitely heightened. My nervous system was very revved up when I was in this space, and I was always heightened, and I didn't know how to come to it in any other way. I was there for them in a way, but it wasn't a meaningful way, and it wasn't the way I wanted to be there for them. I wasn't being who I wanted to be. I was being reactionary, and they're very good at figuring out how to push my buttons, and I was reacting in a way that wasn't who I want to be as a person. Yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah, the pushing of the buttons. It's funny how that's something that tends to happen for most of us parents when the kids get in and we don't have the ability to create space for co-regulation around the nervous system energy. The buttons get pushed. Was that for you as well, Jess?
Yeah, so I grew up in a household where anger was the way we the way the communication went a lot of the time, and I noticed that I bring that into my parenting, or I do in a way that it isn't me. It is a patterned response for me, And especially when I'm not taking care of myself, or if I'm not getting enough sleep, I notice that my reaction is very explosive. And I also have teenagers. I have teenage girls, and 2 teenage girls, and I'm a single mom. So a lot of female, a lot of feminine energy in our house, and a lot of hormonal energy. And definitely, you forget what it was like when you were a teenager and what their bodies are going through as well. And so I think before this program, there was a lot of very much like Pip reaction instead of a nice, calm response. And so I would see this elevated response where I would either yell or, just firing at them. And then what would happen is I would get an even more elevated response from them in return, and it would turn to this back and forth. Well, this isn't an argument here, right? It's just I'm the parent, whatever. But it definitely wasn't healthy, and it made me feel really bad. There was a lot of guilt and shame that I then took after the conversation away from it, going, that's not who I am, and that's not how I want to be, and they really didn't deserve that. Where did that come from? So yeah, just unhealthy communication for sure.
Yeah. A lot of, I would imagine, my kids are younger than yours, as far as the 3 of us or the 4 of us here, mine being 7 and 10, but there's a lot of speed in the reaction. There's not a lot of space for feeling into the need to pause before the reaction. It's just right in it. Yeah. Elise, what resonates for you from what Pip and Jess shared in relation to your experience with your kids? And how old are your kids again?
So I have a 13-year-old child and a 10-year-old son. And I can totally resonate with what they are both saying. I feel it was, without repeating exactly what they said, I came from a place that's very similar. As adults, we go through a lot of stress. I also work in schools, so came back at the end of the day, having given so much to so many other children, and just feeling depleted and tired, and not necessarily always having a consistent level of energy. So I definitely, had really beautiful moments and times where I felt calm, where we had good quality time with my children. But at the same time, it wasn't always consistent. And one of my childs has been dealing with different things in forms of anxiety through its life. And then that, when I was tired and already I felt like at the end of my rope, and then my child comes in and is just anxious and wrapped up and kind of, trying to find support and validation and just like something steady, getting energy from mom, because that's what children do. They need that steadiness, and they kind of push. And I felt like I wasn't able to be that stability there, and that would just like push me over, and I'd get completely triggered. So their anxiety would trigger my anxiety, and it would trigger all of my thinking things like oh, maybe I'm not good enough of a mother. I should be able to do this. I should be able to do that. I wish I was doing this. Why am I not? And then I got trapped at a time in these spirals of guilt and shame. And also when my children would react or do certain things that, I felt they should have done something different, or they're going through their struggles or testing and, growing with doing what children do. There was really like that. I would take it really personally in a way that often I would react to it in self-sabotage talk, in a sense, which would made it even worse, because then I felt like I had to prove that I was the mother, that I was there, that I was right. And I would also feel a lot of expectation from the outside world, in a sense. Like I know my child really struggled with sleep as a child and like really cried, and then people would say, just leave them in their bed and they should be able to just sleep on their own. And so you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not doing things right. And so there's all this talk, like this, like, as referred to, like the monkey mind things that are just coming and actually putting oil on the fire from this situation, and turn things that could be so little in explosion situations, like, and then they get more angry, and then I get more angry, and then we get more sad, and then the situation just tumbled. And yeah, so that was not that it was like that on a daily basis, but definitely these situations were more current when things were heated up. And so that's
I appreciate that, Elise. Yeah, and I think that's an element for so many parents that we haven't been taught how to regulate our own response in a way where we can actually hold space for our kids. And I talk a lot about this, and I know we've talked a lot about this in our group sessions. Just the moment we're born and we have this experience with adrenaline and the way the brain locks in, and if we're not given to a parent who understands co-regulation and knows how to create safety within the nervous system, so the energy exchange of safety and trust and love is there through our calmness, it starts to create the first patterns of the brain's addiction to stress. And it starts to lock in these stories as kids, how we talk about ourselves and think about ourselves. That starts to loop and loop until we're 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. And we've got all these stories about ourselves that now we're transferring that energy to our kids as they're also living their own stress response. And so we have all these households where we're just living off of each other's 20, 30, 40 years of stress response. And the brain's just locked us into these looping patterns of thinking that gets us to be reactive. Can I ask, first up, does that resonate, what I just shared?
Yeah, totally. I think it's that whole multi-generational, and we're used to hearing the word multi-generational trauma for First Nations people, but I think it's relevant to all of us in different ways. Obviously, their struggle is way bigger, but in different ways it relates to all of us, and it comes down from generation to generation because we're not taught how not to do it and how to what other choices we have.
We're not taught how to get the brain to let go of the love of the experience, the stress response, to not start creating thoughts about that experience to lock us into reactive patterns. Whatever the experience is, for all of us, it's the same biological thing that's happening, the same locking of the brain, use of the thoughts, and the reactive state. I'm curious to dive in before we kind of explore how the methodology around the Unleash Energy program supported you, but was there anything that for you at some point around your own experience and how you managed your day-to-day stress, and also in relation to the kids, where you sought out other methods, whether that's in whatever you're open and willing to share? You don't have to, obviously, but if it was therapy, I know for us, for me and our family, we've tried different therapy for our daughter and different experiences, and wondering what you might have had in the past and before you chose around this program.
Sorry.
No, all good.
I definitely have. This is something that that the anger that comes out in me is not who I am as a friend, as a person in my day-to-day, but it is something that was present more so in my first child. So I have an older son who's 22, and I really didn't want to carry that on into my daughters. They were born a little bit later, and their father was very calm, very relaxed in his approach with our children. So it really bothered him when I would get elevated and explosive. So a lot of my seek for support in my own mental health was to do with my parenting style, actually, and that control of anger. So I did counseling, like, full on $200 a pop counseling for a stint of time. I also did a anger releasing Louise Hay program to learn how to kind of let go of some of those feelings. I read different books on it. So it was something that I have given attention to for a lot of my life, and it just still seemed to be present and holding me back, even at age 40, 44, before finding a way to really understand how to calm my nervous system.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. And for Elise or Pip, is there anything there in relation to what you might have seeked out for support in the past?
Yeah, so I've done a couple of things. I mean, I've read, I think, I don't know, 1 million books on parenting.
Yeah.
I don't know how many, but you know what, it's one of those amazing journeys that we are so privileged to have, and yet there's no instruction book that comes with it.
Right.
No, there's no right way to do it. And so, I did delve into a lot of things. I did do the Simplicity Parenting program at one point, and that had some benefits, of course, through that program. And I've done a lot of different things to work on my parenting. But I think really what it was I was looking for something external to help me parent, not looking internal to what strengths I had and what I was able to give as a parent that I already had within me before I did the program. So I think that's the biggest difference for me.
Yeah, that's great. Elise, is there anything you want to share on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I can say I would relate with what Pip just said, and not repeat exactly the words that she said, just like kind of similar journey with, reading books on parenting and doing different things. And the interesting part is, like, I've been working in education most of my life, and I work with children of different neurodiversities, and I work with children with special needs, and I worked as a teacher in preschools. So I've kind of been working with children, reading books, like doing workshops and things like that on how to work with children and support them. And then for myself, I have also done different waves of kind of counseling and working with chiropractors and acupuncture and all other type of specialists that help me and support me. And I got so much thank yous, for all of the support that I got from all of these other things and methods. But there was also for me something still, there was a piece kind of missing, because I know all of those things and I can do it and I do it at work, but it does require energy. And then I come home when I'm in my zone and with my own children, which is like the most valuable things I have in my life, is all of a sudden they get the bad end of the rope when I'm kind of done, depleted, given everything else, around the work. And it's just when I'm in my most vulnerable states, I wasn't able to use all of these tools and these things that I knew to be able to properly respond to those situations. So, and often I would use tools like, okay, pretend that my children's are my students and see what would I do with my students, and then try to do that at home. But there is this emotional piece. We're so connected to them. They're like also mirrors of us. We were talking about the buttons earlier and things. It's like they trigger us because they're so close to us. And I felt like I didn't have the ways or the means to separate when I would get into these revved up stress moments, or when I was so tired or drained. All of this sudden, even if I know all of those things and I have, done all of these other things, it would come and bang, like it would just poof, a bit like Jessica. There would be these explosive moments, these things where I was not able to withheld in my calmness in my nervous system. I would completely go into fight or flight with the situations. Yeah. And that was really, and I felt so bad about it, because we all know, like, we know better and you don't want to do that, but then it still comes, and I felt so terrible. And then getting into the loop of the shame and the guilt of feeling terrible for things like that just made things worse, because then I was not in a good place either. So yeah, so I think that there was something in that sense, like there was a key missing for me to be able to be consistent with my practice and to be able to apply all of the knowledge and all of the other things that I have accumulated before. And I find that key for me came in the last 4 months of being part of this program. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. And because I know there's a level of this that for myself too, I mean, all the things that I've tried for my own health and wellness over the years, and then in relation to the family dynamics and working with the kids, that, and I support any other modality out there, but it wasn't until I began to harness my nervous system energy in the moments of life it was trying to be triggered. In the moments of life, the life is our classroom, and we talk a lot about this, and it's the primary focus of the work that we're doing is training the nervous system to reset in the moments of life that the brain is trying to sabotage. And the thing about family dynamics too, which I think a lot of us maybe not realizing, even though we have these really intricate relationships and they have lots of history and lots of language that's been put on them over the years, and as our kids grow up and our partners, and so that creates a lot of historical vibrations inside of us that the brain locks into, and the brain uses proximity as a form of creating access to more energy. So it will create as much stress around our closest relationships because it's the easiest to feed off of. All right. So proximity it's an interesting one because we tend to have the most conflict or reactionary experiences with those that we're closest with, because it's just the way the brain's designed. It's like, wow, anytime there's a disruption, it knows I'm going to try to keep using that to feed off of your adrenaline and your cortisol and whatever habits you use to feel better. So this idea of the game of life, like life is our classroom, and learning how to regulate the nervous system in those moments. The experience inside of Unleash Energy. So we'll dive into that part of this. And obviously the intention is to support any parents out there right now who are feeling like they're at the end of their rope and just wanna hear from others in a way that, okay, I didn't know that this was an option for me. I didn't know I could actually tap in and not have it have to be a whole big, huge thing. Because I think that's a large part of this too is, okay, well, if I'm going to do what these girls are doing, I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of things. But it's really critical that we're this lifeline in this, we're throwing the life preserver out here. So if you guys are willing to share, what was it about the program? What's the experience you've had? And what was it about it that others can latch on to and say, okay, I need this life preserver as well. Not that this is the be all and end all, but it definitely has some power to it for, what it's meant and designed to do. Jess, maybe you want to start.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it was definitely the simplicity of it. So one thing I've been told my whole life is that I'm a go person. I tend to avoid doing the work sort of because I keep myself busy. It's like, I'm just going to distract and do. And I've had to be, a fighter and a survivor in different roles in my life. And I've taken on the responsibility of doing it all on my own for a lot of my life as well. So thinking about having to spend a certain amount of time or committing to something like a yoga practice, it just was never fitting into my life as a parent. And I found that I just never had time to do the things I wanted to do to work on myself, improve. So the main thing in this program is how simple it was and how I was actually able to implement it in 33 seconds or whatever throughout the day in those moments when I needed it most. So I think that was for me that what stood out is just how easy it was. And as far as my experience and how things shifted and how things changed, or do you want me to share that now too?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I was able to put myself in this calmer state almost always. So, and I'm almost constantly in this in a place where I'm much more at peace in all of the things that I do in my day. So yes, my life is still very busy as a parent, and soccer and school and work and all of these things, but it comes from a much calmer place. So it creates so much more opportunity for space to do the things that I enjoy. But just to learn to respond in all of my connections with people, and especially with my children, so that I'm not coming from that revved up, exhausted space. So again, like I said, teenage girls, there's a lot of emotion in our house, and I can see how their reactions are very, emotionally based. And instead of feeding into that, I just observe it now. I'm much more able to notice when they are reacting in that place. And I now have the tools to keep myself calm, so I'm not feeding their reaction. And again, I'm creating that space for them to then shift into that calmer place. So we have much more, we have communication, good, healthy communication. They want to talk to me now. They want to hug me. They want to cuddle on the couch. They, in the morning before school, it's a beautiful morning routine where we wake up with hugs and we put on music and we're dancing instead of this fighting and, everyone trying to get stuff done and everyone in each other's way. It's completely shifted our flow. And there's still ups and downs. There's days where, everyone's a little bit higher heightened than others, but it seems to be more manageable. And then I am aware when those are happening now, and I am able to go into my place of the tools that I use, and then instantly observe how it shifts everyone's energy in the space that I'm in. So that's what I've noticed the most, for sure.
It's so great. And just for clarity for folks who are listening, the idea of the tools, and this is really specific to using the right tools in the right order. The right tools being, we follow a breath practice called heart flow. It's designed as the neuroscience part of this is that it helps to reset the nervous system through a very particular breath practice that in 33 seconds will reset it by creating coherence through the vagus nerve. And if you practice it over time, not very long, it doesn't take long, as long as we practice it consistently, then it starts to create this space in our nervous system where we get to feel more into this calm, beautiful, peaceful, more easeful state that you then start to have a choice to live from, at least to know that it exists so that you have a choice. And so it's such a beautiful place to live from. And then obviously the vision work, which is the second key foundational practice that we focus on, is harnessing a vibration of how we do want things to feel. And so as you talk about waking up in the morning, and that's been an experience for me too, it's such a beautiful place to start your day from when you have the ability to hold the anxiousness at bay, which is there for a lot of us from just old patterns. You see it wanting to come back in and you're just like, whoa, not happening. I'm just going to reset this, set the boundaries. And I think in relationships, we talk a lot about boundaries, but boundaries really, it's all about the nervous system energy. If you create boundaries in your own nervous system, it's the most beautiful way to set boundaries for yourself in every way possible. And that lets all the beautiful stuff to be there. Thank you, Jess. Elise, how was that for you over the last few months?
Yeah, I could say, like, there again, I think we all share very similar experiences, as we share with a lot of other parents too. I think those are quite common experience, and I really resonate with what Jess has just expressed. Yes, the simplicity of it, and for me that was really a big thing with like the right tools in the right order, because I feel like I have done so many things and there's so many tools out there and so many possibilities, but it was, as I was saying earlier, I was feeling like I was missing like a key component, like to be able to maintain this when things got hard, because it's like, I go for a beautiful like acupuncture session, I feel good, I'm calm, I come home, I go for a walk, I do a yoga session, but then as things got stressful, I couldn't bring myself back often to be able to maintain it sustainably, to actually get the the benefit from
Yeah.
these practices.
And to make it a lifestyle, or have it be something you have access to forever if you choose.
It was not necessarily something I could it would, and also these things became efforts a little bit, like just was saying, like there became a little bit of chores or things that I should do. I know that if I do this, then I feel better, but I just don't have the energy right now. I just don't have like the space to do it. So that simplicity of the breath, but how powerful that heart flow breath is, so simple, but to really, as we were saying, in the moment, reset myself and create that space. And for me, one of the main thing is also that doing that breath really allowed me to really notice the emotions that were coming, and just really notice when my nervous system is revved up. And because one of the worst thing in a sense, and something I notice, is often I would be in a really like monkey mind, stuck, revved up, like stressed out place, and not really notice how stressed out I was and how reactive I was. And then through this, I've really learned that every time that things would come and make me feel like this, I would do my heart flow. And I became so aware in the last 4 months of when all of a sudden there's a shift in my body, in my feeling, that makes me reactive instead of responsive.
So
and
great.
then so using these tools, creating that space, noticing and creating that space for making another choice. And what I really liked about this as well is that it's really, really allowed me to shift my narrative. I was talking about that with my partner yesterday, and it's just like, you usually things would happen, and I don't know, you just feel you have these thoughts that just come to you without you, like they're programmed, like, we all have our, like, I'm not good enough, or I don't do that right, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't know, it's my second language, or like you have all these things, like I'm too busy, people take advantage of me, like you have all these things that comes that you don't even know, and that actually is what you're reacting to. You have these thoughts, but being able to create a space and to work with different type of statement, bringing other choices of a different narrative. Now, after a few months of doing this work, I'm noticing that when I am faced with a situation that is challenging, the narrative is very, very different. And just for example, the other day I had a day, like I started at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was nonstop, no break at work. I come home, and then, my son wants a ride, and then my child wants a ride. And then I'm kind of, and it's like 7 o'clock, and then they call me, it's like, pick me up. And I'm just like, really, like, can I get a break? And actually my thought was, wow, I'm so grateful to have these opportunities to be with my children. And it was like complete, like, I realized that actually, even like in the past, I would have been feeling angry and resentful about all these responsibilities. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I started to breathe, to do my breathing, my thinking went naturally, like pre-programmed, onto a thought of like, wow, I actually get to spend time with my child in the car, and we can chat, and we can, and they have this trust in me that they can call me when they're in trouble or they need something, and we can rely on to each other. And it's like, that's what came instead of the self-destructive sabotage thoughts that I used to have. And so having the tools to, in the moment, calm my nervous system so I can actually create a space, notice what is going on, and then also be able to change my narrative, so that if you change these automatic thoughts that are coming into your head, your whole world change, your whole perception of everything. Like, doing chores, cleaning my kitchen has been actually something I've been enjoying, because I'm grateful to have a house, and I'm grateful to have, food and children, and it's not forced anymore. It's not like, I should feel like this because I should be grateful. But by having followed the process and the tools in the right order, these things came together so easily. They just kind of, it allowed me I was expressing that when we had this great conversation yesterday with my partner, but I was expressing that, trying to explain my experience. And it's like, you know what? It's like everything comes from a yes place. It's not I should place. It comes from a yes place. And being that person changes my children. Like, I don't have to tell them what to do. They kind of, I don't have to be angry. They feel into that positive engagement, that energy that I have. It changes the atmosphere at home, and I see it in their behavior. I see it in their reactions, like in their interactions with me and with each other. And then when my child has moments of anxiety or things that would usually really trigger me, instead of blaming and like kind of trying to fix them or change them, I just create space for them and I work on me. I breathe, and I try to calm myself as much as I can, like imagining that I'm creating this overflow to just so they can kind of bath in that energy. And then that's, I guess, what we call the co-regulation. And if I do that, all of a sudden I see their body shift and melt and just kind of and be able to calm. So it's like role modeling, but it's more than role modeling. It's really like, okay, how do I approach this? Not how do I try to fix the world around me? It's like, so in a sense, doing this whole process has really given me my power back, because like I feel that I have something that I can do to make myself a better person, in a sense, to be a better mother, to really be in a better energy that allows others to unfold, like to benefit from as well. And I feel like, yeah, I really feel empowering because through the breath. So when I see even things that are like outside of my scope, like with everything that's been happening in the pandemic and the wars and, the stress that we've been going under, and we also feel so powerless in front of all of those things so often. But being able to do this for myself feels like I have a power. I have the power for myself, and that has a ripple effect on my family and the people around me in the world. And I have seen major changes in my relationship with my children since I have done this work. So
yeah, I love it. It's so powerful, Elise, and I appreciate it. And I think what a lot of what you're speaking to, I mean, there's an element of what we experience day to day where we get caught in patterns of just living, and we don't realize that we actually can create separation from it to recognize that we might be missing something. We might be missing out on some abundance in this moment. And if you're always living in that 1-2 steps ahead, I'm lacking something, I'm fixing something, I'm uncertain about something, then it's really hard to own the overflow that's available for you to have for yourself, but also to give to your family. Then there's this element of when you do this work, which, when we're training our nervous system to help the brain let go of all the stories and the thoughts that are in there that lock us into these patterns of lack and frustration and worry. And when we do that in the moments, it starts to create that space that gives you back your vitality in a way where it becomes and this is what I'm hearing from you, Elise, too, is that it becomes very apparent that that's what's coming back. You're starting to feel into this, wow, I don't have to do anything. I can just feel into a yes energy. And the co-regulation, because that's what this is we're regulating our nervous system consistently. And for most of us, it's the first time in our entire lives that we've had consistency at regulation throughout our day, not just in the morning when we do meditation or when we do our yoga at whatever time that is. It's about using the tools to regulate throughout the day, and you start to create separation in a way where that's your choice. You get to move into that energy. And wow, when you start to own it, it's real. And I get the sense from you, at least, that you're owning that as your reality now.
Yeah, it's been and I feel like every week I keep thinking, oh yeah, that's it. I got it. I understood this a little bit now. And then every week there's another layer, and I'm like, wow. So, and it's been like 4 months now, and I'm thinking, oh, where is this going to go? Like, it feels like it's only a start. And really, it's like for me, there's been like the noticing and the language around this for me has been like the resistance, right? Like, so it's like I used to do things and I was resistant to it. There was an effort like, oh, I should do this. So if I should do this, it's like I'm looking at something, as you say, separated in the distance. That's like, oh, that's what I would like to do and what I would like to have. But there's like that, like you're going against the current to get there all the time. And then when you're worried or like it's all energy that you're losing. You're like fighting against something. But if you think about wanting to do something that you really want to do, that you're engaged in doing, that you're passionate about doing, then it's not work. It actually feeds you. It gives you energy. And so, you know, it did take me 4 months to get there. So it was not something that I kind of learned in the first week, but through this process, and at first it's something that you've mentioned in the beginning of the program to kind of, you know, not try to do everything, just do what feels right, like just what you're pulled towards. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm not doing anything else. I was not really doing, you know, much exercise. I wasn't really paying attention to my diet, what I ate at the time. I just kind of let go on all of this and said, I'm just going to do my breathing. And then I started to add layers little by little. And all of this sudden, that's like, I'm noticing that I'm in a yes place because I really want to clean my bathroom. And I'm like, oh, this is weird, you know, but because I know how it makes me feel, because I've been focusing on how I want to feel in my home and, you know, in my visions. And then those are actually just practices that support that feeling that I've been having. So the more we are able to do things, you know, with the flow of life, with what we want to do, well, the less energy we lose in kind of trying to do the chores. So I would say that, you know, my job hasn't changed, my children, like we haven't really changed any of our habits. Like I haven't really changed that much of anything. Nothing really new happened in the last 4 months, but everything changed because my perspective changed, because my way of being able to change my perspective, because I came from a calm place, because I was in a place in my nervous system that allowed me to heal, to rest, to digest, to process, and to really feel into the moment of the now. And one of the things we haven't really touched on now in this conversation, and I don't know how relevant it is to this conversation in a sense, but that has been really very important for me, is to learn to feel safe in uncomfortable situation. And using the heart flow is like when there is something that I don't feel good about, if I'm stressed or, you know, let's say, you know, our children are coming and they're really revved up and they're having a moment of panic or angry or anxiety, they're confronting us and everything is going on. It's not comfortable. Like, I don't want to be there. That's not how I want to feel. So when I'm like that, I'm resisting the situation. I'm like not going along with it. I'm I'm fighting it. And then that takes so much energy and it makes you be in fight or flight. And then through heart flow, through the intention of gratitude and through the intention of feeling safe, telling my body and my mind, my brain, my whole being of like, it's okay. It's safe to feel stressed. It's safe to feel what I'm feeling right now. I came from a place of acceptance. Like I accept that this is what is happening. And I really find that once you're in that place of acceptance, you're in that place of yes, and you're in the place of presence and allowing transformation. And that's I believe one of the way for expressing why it's working in the moment, in the life, in the classroom, because it's helped me not just, I'm going to do yoga because I don't want to feel bad, but it's allowed me to feel safe with whatever is and capable of working with it. So it's given me my power to be able to work with what I have in the moment that I have it. So if it's a headache, it's a headache. If it's a stressful situation, and if it's a cold plunge and you're going into the river and it's freezing cold and you accept it, you're telling your body it's safe and you know that you're in a safe place. you don't feel the pain in the same way. It's not suffering anymore, and it allows to transform the experience. And I guess that's why it's been so powerful for me to be doing this, the breath, the feeling safe into this. So
I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. And what a powerful gift energetically that we're giving to our families. Obviously, we know it extends out beyond that, because that's what this is. When we work with the nervous system in this way and we harness our energy this way, vibrationally, we're sending out a signal into the quantum field, universe, God, whatever we call it. But you're working from an overflow that goes out and lets other people know this is a safe place to come and feel into, and learn how to feel safe, learn how to feel trust, learn how to feel into the love in a way where it just the exchange is just so exciting. It feels so good. Yeah, thank you so much, Elise. I really appreciate your sharing there. And for you, Pip, in relation to your experience, and obviously, you know, there's lots that we do in the second half of the program, but the initial first half of the program is about this core foundation. It's about getting our nervous system back in a state of feeling connected and feeling aligned, so that we do have that choice. What showed up for you in that experience?
Yeah, so for me, when I started this program, and one of the reasons I signed up for this program was that I just had this overwhelming feeling that things happened to me. I broke a lot of bones in the last year, and it always happens to me. And this is what I was feeling. And my children, I would come home and they would be revved up, and this is happening to me. And there was just thing upon thing upon thing upon thing. So learning the basics of the breath, just learning to give myself a break, allowed me to see that things were happening to me in this way because my nervous system was so revved up that I was attracting that. I was bringing more and more and more of that into my life because that's what I was attracting. Now I attract love, I attract my own health and my own wealth, and I just see such a difference in what's coming to me and how it's coming to me. And it's really interesting because I have broken another bone since I've been on this course. And my shift in what that meant to me this time was so huge. It was, oh, I still have more lessons to learn about this. What have I got to learn, instead of, oh my gosh, this happens to me again, you know? So, you know, that's incredible. So, and I wanted to share with you all, you know, the vision statement thing is a huge part for me too. And the health vision statement, which you're helped through to create in this program, allows me to create a vision of what I want to be and who I want to be, and to carry that with me. And it's not even the actual words of that vision, it's the feeling that they create for me every morning. So I get up in the morning and I read my vision statement. And now that I've been doing this a while, I don't need to read it, I know it. And sometimes I focus on different parts of it that are that I really feel like I need to work on. Now I see things more as the struggles in life as more of a lesson in life than a struggle in life. I wanted to share with you all the vision statement that I wrote around my children, because I think it's really helped me. And it just is that I am calm and grounded, yet full of energy when I engage with my children. And I feel that, and I can see it, and I can bring it to them, and I can bring it to myself first off, and then bring it to them. So this week I want to give you an example of how I utilized some of that stuff. My son came home, and I was working until later, and I came in and there were guns everywhere in my house. And my son proceeded to tell me his whole decision around what was going to happen if the war in Ukraine came to North America. and what he was going to do. He has a plan. He has an entire plan of what he's going to do. And instead of me getting very anxious and being like, oh my God, you're like thinking of being a soldier, and you're like bringing these guns, which I don't even like, out in my house. And instead of doing that, I was able to listen to him and say, I can see that this is really hard for you. And I can see the energy that it's bringing up for you is really difficult for you. And instead of trying to create his journey in a path that I wanted him to take, I was able to hear his journey and be present with his journey, and then be calm at the same time. And it brought us to a conversation of where we get our information from. And especially as teenagers, they're exposed to so much information and so fast. And, you know, the majority of his information was from TikTok, which we all know is probably not the best place to get your information from. So we talked about where information comes from and how we receive that, and why people want to give us that information, because it feeds their revved up system, and it feeds their ability to be able to keep their dopamine levels high in their body. And through the course of Unleash Your Energy, I've learned to allow my teenagers to have their own journey, and I still have to work on that some of the time, but I am learning to allow them to create their own space, and then and that opens the door to conversation with them. So instead of reacting, I'm like, well, I'm curious, what do you want to do about this? Instead of what my reaction to their comment is. And they're like, she's allowing me to do this. And I just see this, it just lets go of that. It just lets go of the vibration that they have. And they're like, oh, I have a choice in this. I can choose what I'm going to do in this scenario, instead of meeting mum head on because she's telling me that I shouldn't be feeling that way, or I shouldn't be doing it that way, or anything like that. And it just opens the space for that. And don't get me wrong, as Jess was saying, is sometimes you come into this and you're hit, you walk through the door and you're hit like a bomb, and you're like, whoa. But just being able to use that instant tool of like, I feel a different energy. I'm noticing all these things. I'm noticing this energy. I'm just going to breathe and get myself really calm, because I need to be in a space where I can give that to them. And it works. And I see them coming down, and then we replace all of that nervous energy with all this energy that's able to communicate and be present with each other. And then we can sit down at the table and have a nice meal and talk. And one of the examples also this week is I started back and doing shift work to 12-hour shifts again, and the children were going to be home. They're old enough to be home by themselves, and they were going to be home and cooking their own meals, because I wasn't going to be there until after 7 o'clock. And I would walk in the door, and what you were saying, Elise, is, you know, seeing the mess or the whatever. I was so grateful that they were able to cook their own meals, that cleaning up after it wasn't a big deal. And the cool thing is that they were like, Mum, I've done half of the dishes for you. I've done half of, you know, they wanted to contribute as well. And so it's just so beautiful that this has happened. Before I did this course, when I was doing shift work, I would walk in the door, I would be exhausted from being up for 12 hours working. And I would look at it and I'd be like, oh my God, this is happening to me again. And instead of like taking that beautiful, just breathe. Look at these beautiful beings that are in your kitchen. They've cooked themselves a meal. They've eaten that meal. And here they are trying to clean up in the way that they know how. This is so amazing. It's so beautiful. Thank you. So, you know, it's brought a lot. It's brought huge amounts of gratitude to my life. I love it.
Yeah. Elise, did you want to share something?
Well, I was just gonna kind of in relationship to that, it's just like, when we have teenagers, or just like children in general, but mostly teens, how defiant they are, right? And how like resistant they are. So if they meet a parent that, if they feel any type of criticism, or if they feel a little too much authority, their reactions, developmentally appropriate, is to fight it back. And then you get into that, like, boom, like we're fighting fight or flight. Well, if, like what Pip is saying is, and I've experienced the same things with my children and mostly with my teen, and it's like, if all of a sudden, instead of having a reactive or critical, or you should do this, or da da da, and those are if you're in just like, okay, I'm just going to breathe this through and just be in a calm state with this and receive what is happening, all of a sudden they don't have anything to fight against. They don't, so they don't fight because they don't have anything to fight again, and instead they kind of feel wrapped in this kind of warm blanket of love, of just like acceptance and curiosity and just like being, and all of a sudden they open up. And when they're open, you can work and guide them, and can really guide them, not by telling them what to do, but giving them the tools so they can make the right decisions as adults, right? And it's like allowing me these tools, and I talk with Jess and Pip as well regularly, so I know for them as well, but it's allowing us to really deepen that conversation and have that space with our children where we can have more connection for guidance. We can guide them better, instead of being, if we're resisting them and if we're reacting, that's what they do. They'll fire up and then they won't listen. They'll kind of fight you even more. So in a sense, like by not fighting them back, and they don't have to fight, they're actually, oh, well, okay, like the same, like I feel that with my son with the video games, for example. If I come and I say, stop, put your video games away, that's enough time, like video games are bad, and now he feels criticized from this, and he's like, no, I want this. There's like that whole dynamic that happens. And instead, I've been using things that we have in the proposed in the program, but I come in a calm state. I don't, judge myself and beat myself up as a parent for having a son that plays video game, because that's just part of life and things. And I'm like, okay, instead of coming from that place, what can I add to our life so that, he is interested in other things? How can I add to this? So instead of trying to take away, and I say, oh, it's a beautiful sunny day, would you, like to go and do something? And then no question, video games goes out the door. Let's go, mom, let's go to the park, let's go slide, let's go do these things. So it's like coming from the place of adding, of being there, of being present. We are so much more like productive or efficient in actually getting what we want than when we try to force it upon them from a reactive point of view. And I think that is so huge, mostly with teens, because we can't do that if we're not able to regulate our own self, because if we're reacting to the situation and what is happening. So
awesome. Yeah, it's so great. I mean, because at the core of what we're chatting about is it's really co-regulation versus just chaos. And when we start to do this work, bringing it back to the simplicity of this, and the real separation of it is, even though we all have our own kids and we have our own lives and we have our own created experiences and the stories that our minds have built around each of our experiences, the biological reactions and the biological experience is the same for all of us. It's all the same experience. We're dealing with revved up systems that are either feeding off each other, or somebody knows how to not let the brain feed off of the reaction and creates the calm space for the other one to feel into, to be able to have a different experience be possible. Sometimes it takes a little while to build that for somebody else. But if you build it in yourself, you're automatically creating the regulation for others to be able to feel into. And I think what we're up to together here and in all your sharing, it just goes to show, especially on the parenting dynamic, with the brain's use of proximity, using those closest to us to get us into reactive states, us as parents, really important now more than ever that we have the right tools in the right order to live inside of our own peace, our own calm, our own connection to the feelings that we do want to have every day, the feelings that we want to be and how we want to be and how we want to show up for ourselves every day in a way that permeates into our environment around us. And those that are closest to us are going to feel into that regulation and help them through co-regulation. And so I'm really, really excited that you guys were able to share your experience. Obviously, we've gone about an hour at least here. It seemed like we were on for 5 minutes, but it's been an hour, yeah. So I know we can go forever and ever and ever and chat lots about this stuff, but I wanted to thank you guys again for sharing your energy. For the folks that had a chance to hear this, if you have any questions at all or are interested in heart flow and what that's all about, I'm happy to share with you that practice as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to click on the training for heart flow and you can watch it. It's free and start practicing. There is an element of this work that vibrationally, when you align this work in conjunction with others and do it as a group, you are vibrationally heightening the experience. And it's really, really comforting to know that you're doing this work with others, because the mind loves to put us into silos and create a state of you're on your own. And that's not how we're meant to do this kind of work. We're meant to do it as a group. And so I guess to finish off, guys, without going on for too long, but the dynamics of doing this in a group aspect for you, how have you found that to be beneficial in relation to just going it alone? What's been your experience around the group dynamic?
Accountability for me, for sure. So I think there's lots of things I've tried in the past where I get really excited and really committed to for the first little bit. But then something will happen, life will get busy. I don't know, you'll go away for a weekend, or you'll drop off your routine for a couple of days and you'll forget to jump back on the horse. And I think having that constant community connection in this program just makes you remember, oh yeah, this is why I feel this way. I'm not committing to the work I'm supposed to be doing. And it makes you excited to get back on, because you're seeing other people's results by doing it. You're witnessing, oh yeah, I forgot. I can feel better if I do this as well. So yeah, that's what.
Because the mind is sneaky, right? It'll try and pull you back into your pattern reactions. And unless you have others to feed off of, it's, it's hard.
For me,
it's hard.
Yeah, for me, it's that I completely hear what you're saying, Jess, and I totally agree. But also on top of that is how amazingly unjudgmental and supportive the group is, and how when you're going through the most vulnerable times during group, how collected you feel by the group's energy and how supported you feel by their abundance that they're giving you. And I really love that part of the group. It's really wonderful. Yeah.
Yay. Right on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say exactly the same. For me, the group is a very essential part of the work. It was support, it was accountability, a chance to be seen and heard as well, which feels really good, like to be able to articulate yourself and kind of putting it out there for others instead of just keeping it in your own head. Sometimes I find that was really important part of the work too, because we do things and then you kind of ruminate, but you get kind of stuck when you're having to explain or express it with others. That really brought something else, and then being so inspired by seeing what the others are bringing to us. So it's like we're feeding onto each other as well. And I remember, like at the beginning of the program, Pip and Jess were already there, and I could see some of the things they were doing. I was like, oh wow, I wish I could do this, right? Like it was like I can feel I want to get there, and it was so inspirational for me to get there. And then I kind of got into the practice, and then all of a sudden, like I remember, and that was related to the cold water plunges, which is a different subject. But then Jess like, oh wow, you're doing this is awesome. And it's like, well, I'm inspiring you, but actually I'm doing this because you inspired me in the first place. Okay. and then like she's kind of going back to it, and then it continues to inspire me. So it's like a gift that keeps on giving, that sharing. It's something that you offer there, and to be able to have other people, it's a gift to be there to receive from others, and it's a gift to be able to give to others, and it just keeps on giving and supporting. So that was for me was really part of what allowed me to find a consistency long enough to really see the transformations.
Yeah, it's so great and so important, especially for us parents. With the way things are right now, we can't do it alone. We need to have the right tools in the right order, and we need to have a community around us that isn't stuck in the revved up fight or flight experience and feeling exhausted every day. We need to be surrounded by others who understand the tools and have used the tools and are vibrating that energy, so that we can latch on and grow with that. Because what we're dealing with here and what we're creating is the ability to live within our own growth state, a constant state of growth. And if you do this work with the nervous system, it's exactly what it puts you in. You start to feel that on a day-to-day experience where, wow, I feel like I'm growing. And when the revved up state tries to pull you down, you have too much strength to let it do that, where you're now able to move in and go, no, I'm going to create my barrier, and I've got this. And that just puts you in a position for yourself, for your family, for the community in the world, which we all need more of. So thank you guys so much for being here and for sharing your experience so far in the program, and obviously on the parenting front. We know there's lots more that it supports in our relationships, our health, and our finance, career, all these elements. But on the parenting front, this is a really powerful opportunity to support more parents. So thank you again for being here today. And for all you guys watching, please feel free to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you join. And look forward to sharing more of these sessions with you very soon.